kind of tipped to, the creativity and trying to make that step in the right direction, or if it shows maybe a little bit of fear of going against B-Step. But I know if I'm playing, going on to against B-Step, my number one thing is just punish that early game as hard as you possibly can. Even in that game, without an aggressive composition, teammate was still able to kind of control everything on the side of B-Step.
Well, of course, the Battleground will be important to figure out how the strategies of the teams will change. So let's see what the next map will be. We started on Cursed Hollow. And our bands, do you remember our bands? We're going to see them right here, actually, so it doesn't even matter. Our bands were Dragonshire and Infernal Shrines, and Cursed Hollow was the first pick. That was picked by Team 8. Now B-Step has picked Battlefield of Eternity, and this is something that we talked about yesterday for B-Step versus Gale Force Esports 2 is, in general, the team that picked the Battleground won the game. This was not the case for Team 8 in this particular series in game number 1, but B-Step, they got behind on Battlefield of Eternity. They played the most patient game I've probably ever seen there and came back and won the late game again.
That is very true, but it's also one of the hardest maps to be able to do that on.
Right.
Gale Force didn't necessarily, grab the game fast enough, I guess, in my argument there. So if Team 8 manages to be able to do that, I do think B-Step still will very much struggle because it's not nearly as forgiving as the early game as Cursed Hollow.
Looking at the bans. Ban was on Medivh. He didn't want Glaurung to play that. Do you think instead it's going to have to be on Tracer and let Medivh through since it's more of a threat on Battlefield of Eternity? It doesn't seem like Medivh screams Battlefield of Eternity to me.
I think that would be my thought process for sure. It would just be, get rid of the Medivh and then, get rid of the Tracer, let the Medivh through because Medivh can't do nearly as much there as he can on some of the other maps. Or just look to take the Tracer yourself if you're going to ban the Medivh. Expect maybe the Zeratul could come out, but I don't think it's a must pick and it's not necessarily the best map. But yeah, you always got to be looking at Glaurung. What's he want to be on and what am I afraid of on this map particularly?
I think Greymane is another example of that for either side. That can be a pick and it's one of his better battlegrounds too. Looking at now what Team 8, their strategy might be, they came in with something that was obviously planned, but didn't go the way they wanted it to. They didn't pick up the win in the game. Do they go to something more standard, or do you think that they have things prepared that they're going to keep trying to throw at B-Step?
Again, I would always start with the standard. Even in the game number 1, it's why really kind of get creative is if you can take your opponent straight on. And if they haven't scrimmed one another that much, and they should lack the information because they knew they were going to be playing against each other this week, I would expect that, you start out standard and then you make the adjustments from there. So to go a little bit kind of wacky in game number 1, I hope that doesn't continue. I would like to see a little bit more traditional and then, see how it feels because B-Step is very afraid to take team fights. It's pretty apparent up until very late into the game.
Yeah.
They don't have that control, and I would try and solely focus on that if I'm Team 8.
Battlefield of Eternity has started. Team 8 bans Tychus.
Yeah, the Tychus ban here, he is very effective on the race, but he's not an outlier, I guess. He just has consistent DPS to be able to put in there, and so I'm not surprised. I expect Artanis to be the ban, just considering that he universally has kind of been respected in the draft phase, and then it is his best map. But instead, it's going to be the Tassadar. There's no way Team 8 lets this through. Yeah, all right, insta-lock
That was very fast to choose.
I'm surprised B-Step did that, to be honest. I think they had to expect it, right?
That's my hope, is that they expect that to come out. And the way they played Warriors in the last draft, it seemed like they knew that they were giving up ETC to get something they preferred, and it worked out for them. Whether or not they expected the follow-up Azmodan is another question, but I still believe that whenever B-Step makes a move like this, it's calculated.
Yeah.
But Artanis is quite a foe on Battlefield of Eternity. His level 1 pickup talent of Amateur Opponent allows his Twin Blades attack to do 150% bonus damage to minions, mercenaries, and monsters, which can chew through the health bar of an Immortal.
Yeah, and now with these bans and picks, I expect we saw already B-Step transition towards like a Malfuri and Li Ming in this rotation. Both of them complement the map really well. They're very, very strong. I wouldn't be surprised the Li Ming is going to be the first pickup. And again, I do think it'll be a Malf. If not, maybe a bit more focus on another, kind of, well, never mind. It is going to be the Malfurion. So, for Team 8 here with the Artanis pickup, what are they going to want? Again, you have to consider one more person who's at least pretty darn good at the race itself, and then the rest you can worry about, running a 1-4, the peel off to the Immortal on the race, defensive, because Artanis has got it himself. We do see the Diablo and the Ragnaros. Very, very heavy health bars and melee-centric composition already on Team 8, but a lot of them fit to what, we kind of expect out of Team 8, at least from what we've seen from them so far.
Justing's Diablo was the true Lord of Terror yesterday. Or no, that was even on Friday. And it was enough that it got a ban, a respect ban from B-Step in the last game. So I'm excited for you guys to see this if you haven't seen any of Teammates' games just yet. B-Step get a ban. Likely it will be a support, could be a ranged hero too if they want to limit one of those.
If I'm B-Step right now, obviously you aren't concerned too much about the warrior hero pools. I would stab at the support. What am I concerned of? Rhaegar is pretty effective, not only as just a support overall, but then he's one of the better when it comes to raw DPS.
Kharazim too, for this battleground.
I would be way more afraid of just the of the Rhaegar over the Kharazim, just purely on the fact that Kharazim, yes, helps with the race, but in just raw supporting, especially with big health pools like this, just doesn't work as well. And then Zarya is going to be removed here for Team 8.
B-Step need a warrior. They don't get Zarya. That's been taken off the table by Team 8. What does King Caffeine feel like playing?
It's got to be, I'm guessing it's going to be Murden. Anytime he can get his hands on it, he will move down the route of the Murden. It works well with the Li Ming. I don't see them making any adjustments there. It's just, what other frontline do they kind of want? There's been so many, melees removed. Is it going to be the Thrall?
What did they play on Battlefield of Eternity yesterday? It was Malfurion, Li Ming, Zarya, Murden, and Ragnaros. So not only did the ban on Zarya help not let B-Step get the same strategy that won them the game before, but they've taken Ragnaros away too. So they've been doing their homework. Good job, teammate.
Studying it up, and that's kind of the beauty of the format that we have for the HGC, right? It's the fact that you have the opportunity to know exactly who you're going to be playing and build specific drafts and theories. Falstad locked in, and then Zul Jin, a triple backline on Battlefield of Eternity. Again, heavy focus onto their poke overall in that race. B-Step here, it's a, how do I say this? The philosophy it seems like they have on this map is very old. Very old. The original thought process and strategy that kind of came out for a long period of time, for those who didn't know, was, again, it's just all about poking. It's like, well, your opponents are going to defend. Well, I can just poke, 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 poke. Quickly, it seemed like the world learned, well, what if we just initiate as fast as possible? Your poke isn't going to matter that much, which is where things like Thrall with his Sunder would come into play. So I like it, but I think it's a little outdated. It can be easily responded to, and Team 8 doesn't really struggle in the engagement department as long as they flank.
I'm so scared of Graviton Vortex at 13 when Artanis gets double swaps. I am terrified for B-Step. Because what do they have? They have Barrel Roll, Li Ming has Teleport, but Ice Block for Malfurion? It's Kharazim.
That last pick there, the Sylvanas for Team 8, was insanely risky here. All right, so let's talk about how this is going to play out when looking at the comps and how they are. We have a triple backline, raw poke, everything's going to be working out fine. Just try and buy time as long as you can on the side of B-Step. Team 8, meanwhile, is going to be very melee focused. They do have Artanis to be able to aid with the race, but obviously they just need a raw DPS, somebody to confirm those kills when the engagement actually happens. Sylvanas is not that person. She has very little burst outside of her Wailing Arrow onto that target. Other than that, she kind of does damage over time, throwing out her dagger whenever possible. So the Sylvanas is, great when you get the Immortal on your own, but Artanis is really the only great hero when it comes to the race on itself, and I can't help but feel like it just a better, more consistent DPS would have been far safer for Team 8, because it's not like, again, their race isn't absurdly dominant against a Zul Jin, a Falstad, and a Li Ming. That Sylvanas pick was insanely risky.
Was it picked for the Malfurion?
I mean, I guess it could be. It's just, that I think the idea is that, okay, we have our Tannis, we're pretty good in the race, but I don't think that they are considering how effective a triple range can be on the race itself.
Yeah.
And it would have been totally fine to pick any other DPS that can get the kill and help with the race a little bit. But more than anything, when Diablo, you know, gives you the overpower, throws you over, somebody's got to be able to confirm that kill. And it's not that the other heroes can't. It's just that not nearly as like that they're dead. I'm not sold that they're going to die unless Wailing Arrow's used, and that's a resource you didn't need to draft into.
Seems like they have a lot more hope that Ragnaros maybe can be that follow-up that's needed with Sulfurous Smash.
And it could be, right?
Yeah.
Like, but again, it's just a base kit versus a heroic. Do you want to take that risk? And I'm not saying that it was like the worst decision in the world, but again, it's like the Asmo. You weren't forced in that direction, and I have to question, you know, maybe was there a better option?
What would you like to see? Like a
Even
Vala?
a Vala? Even
That's
a Vala?
what I was thinking too, Vala. Thinking of Yoda, if Yoda's going to be the one on Sylvanas, which she should be. Gul'dan?
I mean, I'd even take a Jaina. Like, I just
Jaina.
I want them to be dead. That's all I care about. It's
Blizzard,
like,
you set here.
It's because you have the 3 melees versus the triple background race. They will win the Poke War. So when I get that initiation, if they don't die, how do I win? I just don't. So I would be willing. It's, again, it could work out, but it's just, if that is the factor, if that is your win condition to be able to stop this race, I am solely focused on when that engagement happens, somebody has to die. Because if they don't, I know I'm going to be struggling.
What's Malfurion going to be able to do to help keep everybody alive, that triple backline?
He's got to just be at the forefront of the fight, be able to make sure he gets Twilight Gem very, very early on, you know, kind of stop the momentum of the initiation. Because
it is good versus that heavy of an engage with all of those. Well, guys, let's see if the melee strats are going to work for Team 8 to bring this series back, or if we're going to have the triple backline get B-Step another win.
All right, so on the blue side, once again, is going to be Team 8. We have Yoda is going to be on the Sylvanas, Glarong on Artanis, Buds on the Kharazim, Diablo played by Justing, and Prismaticism on the Ragnaros.
And in the red, up 1-0 in this series, and showing off how much they practice their B-Steps. It is B-Step with King Caffeine playing ETC McIntyre on Falstad, APM playing Malfurion, iDream on Zul'jin, and K1 Pro playing Li Ming.
So, do we see any adjustments? Iron Fist was a pickup there for Kharazim. Not surprising because how much it aids onto the race. Everything else is very normal. Amateur opponent on the Artanis because the map once again. For Zul'jin, though, we do see him speccing into his Q. It's going to be the Bone Slicer there, making sure he gets increased damage. It helps with confirming kills on frontline. It even works onto the Immortal, so very well done. But as you can see here, B-Step's key to the game is going to be don't be afraid to engage, which we saw them a little bit afraid of in the last game here. Hopefully, we see that adjustment in this match.
Seems like with the composition that they have chosen, they may still be afraid to engage, and very well should be scared of swaps and Justing's Diablo. Yoda can also pick up a talent at level 7 that helps increase damage to minions, mercenaries, and monsters too. So maybe the Sylvanas was solely just trying to get their slice of, if we have to race, who is going to help us do that best? Who can do bonus damage? In between that, amateur opponent, Iron Fists, maybe it could be possible, but I just don't know with the B-Step. I like that pick too, the Pierce, at level 1 for Zul'jin, because if he's hiding behind the Immortal, it can still go through and hit a lot of the melee heroes if teammate are clumped up.
Yeah, and it's really good if it pairs that like with its level 7 as well, and you get to really kind of choose who is the threat that I want to be on. If you don't take that, not only is it more difficult to be able to land, but also just your raw kill potential, you have to hit the target that you ended up landing your Q. So getting to choose a move, you know, stutter stepping appropriately, it's a really awesome direction for the build, and I think it complements the map well. But we're about to have our Immortal phase here, Gilly, and the aggression, or at least rotation here, much faster for B-Step than we saw the first time they played this map.
Yeah, they've made a lot of adjustments. They've already thrown out a healthy chunk of damage. Ragnaros is in the top. B-Step realize this and start to move forward. Throwing damage where they can. King Caffeine wants to be aggressively up in front, keeping everybody off his squishy heroes, and just like that, B-Step get through the first half of Ilarian's health bar.
And that's exactly what I was referencing to in the draft, is just not that, again, they have heroes that are effective into the race, but a triple backline like this, it's only going to get scarier. Falstad will do more at 7. K1 Pro is going to be obliterating this Immortal. So the defense, when they realize they can't win the race in the aggression, they have to make sure that they end up picking up those kills, or in the long run, I do think B-Step will be successful. That being said, I think B-Step took a very, very high risk by running triple backline here.
Here comes the Immortal to the top lane. Falstad versus Diablo in the bottom lane just to ensure that they've got the soak, but that does favor B-Step because Falstad can fly in to help if he's needed. There's no Gust yet to quite help out with that. Root grabs Glaurung after his Blade Dash. Glaurung still wants to get some talents to start building up as much as he can. Buds takes a hit, but does help bring down the Immortal, and along with Molten Core, Team 8 keep their fort safe. K1 Pro gets hit by a swap.
Yeah, Glaurung actually made the dash forward, predicted the blink there, and K1 Pro teleported right into it. A little bit of a cheeky play, but did not confirm anything here. So the Immortal did go over to B-Step, but they weren't able to pick up too much. You know, Ragnaros pretty good at saying, hey, I'm not going to be worried about. Speaking about the Ragnaros, though, barrel roll is up, or it was interrupted. It was interrupted there in the stun, so very well done. McIntyre ends up going down, and Team 8 gets first blood here in this game.
The B-Step are moving all over the place. They grab a Khazra camp in top, already starting to move toward their bruisers too, the Shaman. Even maybe looking at the Khazra camp in bottom and defending or picking up some kills on Prismaticism and Yoda. But realizing that so many people were off the battleground, nobody was showing in lanes, those two heroes backed off.
It's a 1-4 here. Falstad seems to be doing a bit of the split pushing here for B-Step, you know, getting the soak wherever, considering the fact that he has the global. Going to be the best choice. Typically, we do see, you know, ETC sometimes going to be that guy if he does end up having his stage dive. But again, the race damage here for B-Step, and we also see K1 Pro actually picking up the Triumvirate once more on his Li Ming. He did a very good job of being able to get those max range orbs, the cooldown reset, or at least increasing the cooldown right there. He did an insane job. I don't think I've ever seen somebody hit so many orbs, to be honest. Like, at that perfect range, he did such a phenomenal job.
It's a nice choice, too, from APM to get Shando's Clarity to increase the amount of mana that's given with Innervate. They don't need Moonburn for extra damage on the monster, the Immortals. They have enough with the triple backline they have.
And here's going to be an offensive spawn. Very early rotation from Team 8 is going to secure them the first phasing here. Very well done. B-Step was late, but look how much damage they were able to put out onto it. 7 has been picked up, so we do have the Seeker for Li Ming. A defensive position now for the Immortals. This is where Team 8, the poke war is going to come in. When they initiate, when they manage to be able to pick that up, they need to make sure that that target is going to be dying, or we might see Li Ming solo this thing down.
Team 8 is trying to soak as much of those skill shots from K1 Pro that they can, but in doing so, obviously, it starts to take down their health bars, too. Every single orb that comes in, all the magic missiles, poking down, and Team 8 can't even hope to follow up like that. The best they can do is get a swap. That swap did not make any difference. Yeah,
the swap actually forced a barrel roll where I thought McIntyre was going to be into the 1v1 with Sylv and maybe a tough spot, but he was going to be just all right for now. It looks like Team 8 is now crossing the line of scrimmage, trying to move up onto the Immortal. And Ragnaros and Sylvanas do kind of move to the side lanes as we see Team 8, you know, trying to use this 3-man defense while using the wave clear that they have to get an experience advantage. But B-Step is just making a quick rotation with the Falstad. You know, it's not really making too big of a play. That was a good attempt there from Glaurung, but not going to connect on the swap.
They are doing a good job, though, of soaking up a lot of the skill shots, and then Bud's keeping everyone fairly healthy while Team 8 continue to soak. That's netted them somewhat of an experience difference, but it's not like they are so close to heroic abilities that they can get those and then win the race after that. They are miles away from that.
Yeah, normally you see this approach exactly when you're like at 9.5 and you're like, all right, the minute we get 10, they can't deal with this anymore. But it seems like Team 8 is pretty stuck in their ways, at least so far into this game. The swap does land on the calf. The Glaurung is going to be interrupted there. A huge root. McIntyre confirms the kill. Very well done, the follow-up there from APM. And now we see B-Step is going to move in onto the rest of this Immortal.
Immortal taken down. B-Step will start to siege the bottom lane where Sylvanas has been split pushing this entire time, throwing out whatever damage she can. draining towers of ammo. So it's nice to not only be able to win the Immortal, but also stop that siege from taking down any more of B-Step structures. Any of them at all, really.
Yeah, B-Step here is, for the first time in probably almost all the games we've seen them so far at HGC North America, has control of the early game, has won the first 2 objectives, surprisingly so. But again, Prismaticism gonna Molten Core right up, be able to deter some of the damage coming in. 10 will be picked up here for B-Step though, before Teammate, if they manage to pick off this fort, which is going to be going down here, so Teammate's going to have to get that retreat. We'll see if they can get anything else. I think at most is going to be a keep for a wall.
Diablo's up top 2, so Teammate were trying to defend 4v5 from B-Step. Molten Core was used in a way that the Immortal and all of the poke from B-Step stopped it quite quickly, so it wasn't quite the defense that maybe Teammate would have liked with Ragnaros. But soon, Teammate will have 10. As soon as they grab it, Glowering wants a swap. Let's see if he gets one.
There's a Sulfura Smash, hits K1 Pro. Cleanse comes out, but a little late. Wailing Arrow used 2 here, Gilly. Overpower's gonna get the toss, and it looks like B-Step's gonna walk away. Very close to a rough spot, though, for B-Step. I was just about to compliment that when I was criticizing Teammate's composition and the struggle that they're going to have on those initiations, I do think they do very well when they aren't fighting in the, the death pit that is where the Immortal spawn. In a lane like that, if that engagement had happened, that's where Teammate thrives. Their composition is going to be successful there, so very well done by B-Step, not allowing that initiation to happen.
Level 10 to level 10. Gate maybe going down so that Glowering can try to get a swap, potentially, if Teammate want to set up that way. But also, there's a ton of mercenary camps to get. Zul'jin is looking at his own bruisers.
Zul'jin has got to be one of the weirdest, murkers in the entire game. Because you get yourself low, but then you're almost dying and you're toggling on and off your passive. It's just it's a weird scenario. Either way, Shaman Camp is now going to be captured relatively early for B-Step, a common trend for them when it comes to Battlefield of Eternity. Typically, always wanting to wait till those Immortals spawn, obviously, to gain as much value out of that camp as you possibly can. But it looks like maybe they're just going to try and siege with it early on instead.
Yeah, there are some mercenary camps for Teammate to slow them down, and Teammate are going to grab their bruisers too. So it looks like B-Step are slowly getting better at the timing of these Shaman to make sure that they can be in the better positioning for Immortals. Look at them. As soon as that timer comes up, they're heading straight to the mid. They know, they see that Teammate has responded. They're forcing them to come up there, and that just sets B-Step up better in this mid section as the Immortal spawn.
Yeah, and this is not a good spawn here for Teammate, purely on the fact that it is so close to their Shaman camp that's pressuring on bottom. Could lead to a free clear here on the side of B-Step. But this is the defense, the poke that we're known so well. Again, when Teammate manages to get their initiation, they have to be able to confirm that kill, or over time, their health bars will be withering away. Especially, with the build that we see out of Buds on Teammate. He just doesn't have the raw healing capabilities to be able to deal with that poke.
McIntyre has flown bottom, and all of Teammate are collapsing. Gust used to keep him alive. Yoda was turning off the fort. They may just choose to push down that fort, knowing that there's a mercenary camp there too, try to get ahead and experience a little bit, take that down if they can start to get Immortals one for themselves. But B-Step don't want to let it happen.
Yeah, and that was I think the justification of the Sylvanas is their idea was Ragnaros is going to be able to clear in one wave and Sylvanas doing the other. But take a minute there, 7-sided strike used on the caffeine. The swap goes in, but the root actually kept Glowering in place, just pulling it back. That is going to be the blind is used here for Artanis. That 3 heroics down, only 2 available, Wailing Arrow and Apocalypse on the side of Teammate, while Twilight Dream, Mosh Pit, and Taz Dingo are up here for B-Step.
We haven't yet really seen the usage of Apocalypse with Sulfura Smash together. The full complement of heroic abilities for Team 8 come into fruition. Whereas B-Step, on the other side, no big moshes yet. B-Step have been able to play the game that they would like to, as long as there's no forced engagement for them.
This is not the spawn that you want if you're Teammate.
Right.
Again, you don't have a position to be able to stop it. You are not going to be able to win the trade. Oh man, this is a tough spot to be in. Another Immortal now going to B-Step. And it's all the draft when it comes down to it. It's just the triple backliner there, the defense, and B-Step kicking it old school, but doing it well.
Yes, they're not letting Teammate ever get the fight that they would like versus them, and it has paid off for them so far. But one swap, especially once 13 comes in, could change that for Team 8. So they're trying to get there. They're trying to get to 13. They're trying not to lose too much. Again, Molten Core used. early on to do as much damage as they can, take down Immortal's shielding so that he'll come into melee range and be a little bit safer for the members of Team 8 to defend. But this fort is forfeit. Yeah,
Team 8, it doesn't even really look like they're losing the game right now, right? Experience is relatively close. They are down the fort, 1/4 over B-Step, but it's not that the game is that far against them. Actually, Garen getting caught out there, he will be able to survive. It's not even that right now. They are so far behind. It's just I don't see this changing anytime soon. And eventually those forts are going to become keeps here for B-Step. This is the fight Team 8 wants, though. Again, in open territory, they do thrive a bit more. Less desperate to confirm that pick instantly where Sylph can kind of get value. But B-Step just retreats. Very calculated play. And this invade, though, this could be good. Team 8 really wants to try and get this fight. They throw out the swap, it doesn't land, and Justin goes in.
Justin goes in, gets on top of the point just in time, so Fury Smash goes down, and Buds jumps in. McIntyre uses Gust to push everyone away. ETC gets taken out as Apocalypse is used. Prismaticism low in the back, dodges Twin Cleave. Everyone jumps in, swap. Taz Dingo used just in case that swap would connect. And 1 kill for the efforts of Team 8, but it was something.
Yeah, it was exactly what they need. They need those fights whenever they can get them, and heads up to them to understand really that's going to be the ideal fight for them. Now going to go over and try and deny the camp, or instead bait it out here. We'll see if McIntyre lays prey. He moves up. Oh, I dream. No Taz Dingo.
Well,
you've activated my trap
dreamed of going back to base, and that's where he'll be going. Terrible, I know. Mercenary Camps, though, Team 8 can grab that one now. Steal away Bruisers. That takes away something that would otherwise concern them during this Immortal phase. And 18 seconds before Taz Dingo, a.k.a. Zul'jin, is up. So maybe they can get the better setup around Immortals, too.
Yeah, this is a really good moment here for Team 8 to be able to swing the momentum into their favor. They need to be able to get onto the Immortal as fast as it spawns. There will only be a couple of seconds where they won't have Zul'jin there on this race, so they do manage to get the Shaman Camp at a perfect timing. They are now making this transition. I expected B-Step to actually delay in this phase, but they're willing to take this race even though it is 4 versus 5, and take a minute to look at the HP difference there. That is what Zul'jin was needed for. This is where Team 8, they're going to play defensive. They're going to look for that initiation. They have the Shaman Camp pressuring. That's going to force Falstad. I think the minute Falstad shows on bottom, it's going to be a really hard initiation. Instead, they're going to take the race now that they had the advantage. The blind will confirm this.
Wow, Gust used 2 even to try to keep Team 8 from getting it, but counter heroic abilities on either side, and it works out better for Team 8. That kill exactly what they need. Both of those kills to claim an Immortal, and this is huge for them. They have Sylvanas. They finally don't have to be on the defensive. They're breaking down towers too so that they can move onto the fort. They'll get 16 faster, and Team 8 with a big momentum swing back into this game.
Yeah, and the Sylvanas is really going to kind of take a small victory and make it a huge one. All right, so Team 8, swap goes in. iDream's in a tough spot, and he's going to end up going down, not even using Taz Dingo. Personally think that was the smarter trade, just to sacrifice his life, and you might have the opportunity to be able to defend this keep, or maybe the core if the push happens that hard here. But the shielding is just about to drop here. Justin just goes in, overpower, cleanse is going to be used. Bud's trying to, punch everybody to death, and that is going to be a solo mosh. APOC used, everybody dodges. King Caffeine goes down with Prismat confirming this kill, and that is 2 people dead now. B-Step is in a tough spot. Team 8 might be able to win this.
Wailing Arrow was used too, just to make sure the mosh didn't go down. So huge Soul Fury Smash. Falstad eliminated. 7-sided strike to make sure Malfurion drops 2. And with 1 aggressive play that started with a Mercenary Camp invade, Team 8 grabbed control of the game and tied up the series.
I think that game put on a very good example of what the pros and cons of both those compositions were. The minute that we saw Team 8 be able to pick up something that wasn't on the defensive to try and force that burst in open territory, they thrived and they just absolutely dominated. There's a reason triple backline died a long time ago. And then also whenever it was around the Immortals, the triple backline, you could see the justification of those picks on the side of B-Step. It was just a cool little thing that you rarely get to see, like the full understanding of both sides. But well done, and it's going to be 1-1 now.
It is 1